floor. Then you storm out the door. I can tell you want some more. Take your time, cause your love is what I adore. Baby, yeah. Quiet, dancing all over the floor. Yeah, they watching the way that we soar. Quiet, eyes on you, baby. Make them go crazy. Quiet.
Hello guys, and welcome to my Stamina Nightblade build. Let's jump right into it. So to start off, we are a Khajiit Nightblade. Khajiit is uniquely the best option for this build. Wood Elf is okay, Orc is okay, Nord is okay, but Khajiit is definitely the best, and that is for a few reasons. Number one, Khajiit's going to get health recovery and stamina recovery. Beautiful. Number two, Khajiit's going to get bonus crit damage from stealth. Beautiful. And then number three, Khajiit is also going to get bonus weapon crit damage, or weapon crit chance, sorry. So there you go. Khajiit, by far the best bet for this build, guys. You definitely want to pick Khajiit. If you can pick a different race, it works too, but yeah, Khajiit is really good. It is really good for this build. This is pretty much a Khajiit Nightblade build. So let's take a look at the stats. Starting off here, we've got the 12k Magicka, almost 21k HP. Now, keep in mind, that is actually a bit higher than it should be. We have the Emperor Alliance bonus, so we should normally have around 19k HP. Vivek's just full right now, so I have to film this in a campaign where I have Emperorship. So we don't have a super high HP value on this build. Don't worry, this build does not need a huge HP value. If you're sitting around the 20k mark, you have plenty. And then finally, we have below 27k stam. So quite a bit low max stat here. And yeah, this is okay. This is how it's going to look. A big part of why our max stat are so low is because of the sets that we're running. And don't be fazed by this. This looks fine. Let's take a look just over to the right here at this guy, our recoveries. And we're going to buff up too real quick here. Just buff up with our minor and our major buffs. Here you go. 2,700 stamina recovery, 1,500 magicka recovery, and we have almost 1,700 health recovery. We are running Troll King. When we are fully buffed, we sit at 4,400 health recovery on this build with Troll King up. Yeah, that is pretty much the equivalent of having Vigor up at all times. And that means a lot of things. The big thing that I've noticed for my gameplay on this, it meant that I didn't have to actively click Vigor, which meant that I had more time to attack or dodge attacks, just focus on the fight as opposed to focus on healing myself. And that made a huge difference, honestly. Just being able to entirely focus on the fight and rely on things like my health regen to keep me alive. Yeah, really, really good. And then another thing I want to mention is that in this build, I recommend that you morph your greatsword ability, but I actually didn't have momentum morphed. I still don't on this build. All this footage that I got was filmed with momentum. I didn't even have rally. The 4.4k health recovery is seriously OP. I kid you not. On the Stamblade, it is so good. Unless they kill you almost instantly, they're going to have a very hard time taking you down with that amount of recovery. And then, of course, I had the bit of rally healing on top. But yeah, we didn't even have the burst heal from rally. This was absolutely incredible. I can't say enough how good this health recovery was. We're running Purge on top of it because we have so much Magicka recovery. And, you know, even if we get defiled, we can purge it away. This is absolutely fantastic. Seriously, guys, the health recovery on this build is absolutely insane. It is what makes this build play so well. So that's why I say go for a Khajiit as your ideal race. But Nord, Orc, and Bosmer doesn't have the health recovery, but they get the stam recovery and the crit damage. So Nord, Orc, and Bosmer are kind of good options for this build too. So taking a look at our other stats here, we're going to buff up with Rally. Only 3,500 weapon damage. When we go into our cloak, it goes up to just under 3,800. So we buff up to just over 4,400 weapon damage in our cloak, which is pretty sweet. Our crit rate is very nice on the greatsword. It's a little bit lower than this. We get a little bit of bonus crit right now from our from our Alliance War passive stuff, but normally we're sitting around 55% crit on this build, which is super awesome. We play a lot of crit damage on this build, so hitting the crits is very important, so having that high crit rate is great. Yet again, I cannot stress how good Khajiit is for this build. Khajiit is literally the perfect race for a build like this. So yeah, our weapon damage and our max stam are not too terribly impressive, but we have a ton of crit damage on this build, and that's where a lot of our damage is going to come from. So taking a look at our physical spell resist, they are not terrible at all. 18k for both, almost 19k. Good stuff. And then our crit resist is coming in at 2.3k. You want to have at least 2k crit resist on this build, and there you go. For the Munduses that we're running, I am running the Warrior Mundus. Definitely the best bet, increase our damage and healing. If you ideally want to go more damage, you could actually just drop the Warrior and go for the Sharpened Mundus. Warrior is just going to increase your damage against all sources, but Sharpened, the Lover, sorry, is ultimately going to give you more damage than the Warrior. And you can go for the Lover on this build because the health recovery is pretty much where most of our healing comes from. So it is an option. We don't need to really crutch a lot on having high weapon damage for healing, so that is an option, but I picked the Warrior because it was just a little bit well-rounded. For the drink that we're using, we are using all primary stat recovery drink. This is a must-have for this build. This is part of why our regen's so good. Health recovery, magicka, and stamina recovery for 2 hours. Absolutely fantastic. And then finally, for the potions we use on this build, we use Essence of Weapon Crit. Very important, I think, that we use the Essence of Weapon Crit. It's going to give us the health recovery and the stamina recovery buffs, which are very important for this build. We don't get the magicka recovery one, but it's not as important because we honestly don't need a huge mag pool. The stam pool is a lot more important. And the stam sustain is, for the most part, more important for the stam blade. But the big thing, too, of course, is that major savagery. We play a lot into the crit damage here, so you definitely want to have major savagery up so you have a better chance of landing those critical hits. Okay, so let's take a look at the gear that we're running and how we're really doing this crazy regen build. So to start off, we have the 2-piece Troll King. You guys knew this was here. This is what's going to allow us to push crazy high health recovery, and it's super great for a Nightblade because we do get the Minor Berserk, so we don't have to run Slimecraw to run a lot of burst. So yeah, really awesome. Nice Troll King set, huge amounts of health recovery, little bit of healing done, but like I said, we're not focusing a lot on that aspect of our healing, more on the health recovery aspect itself. This will only proc when you're below 50% HP. This build has almost 2k health recovery normally, and then it gets way higher than that when your health begins to drop. Yeah, it's really good. Your rally will almost always make sure your Troll King is up at all times as well. The next skill that we have, or the next set that we have, is Willow's Path. And this is the secret set that really brings this build together. It is going to give us all of our recoveries, health, magicka, stamina, and then a 15% bonus to all of them as well. Very, very nice. This is going to pair really well with Troll King, giving us even more recovery on our Troll King set, which is super awesome. Pairing really well with Nightblade, who just innately gets a 15% recovery bonus to everything. So really sweet there. Yeah, can't say how awesome that is enough. And then the final set that we have is Bone Pirate. And Bone Pirate was picked yet again because it is a great regen set, but also because it gives us a lot of max stam, and we're really lacking the max stam on this build. So this is going to make up for all that max stam that we miss out on. Yep, great sets. So there you go. Just honestly 3 regen sets for the build, and it's working really well. I've really enjoyed this for PvP. So let's take a look at the traits on our weapons to begin with. We have got Infused on the back bar here with our bow. The Infused bow is very important for that weapon spell damage enchant. It's going to make sure we buff up on our front bar. A big combo that we're going to do with this build is from our cloak, do a bow, almost fully heavy attack, into the ambush, into light attack, surprise attack. So leading with that bow heavy attack is just going to give us that big buff, allowing our other attacks to deal more damage on the front bar. And then on the front bar, we have got the Nirn-honed Willow's Path Greatsword with that Disease Enchant. Can't go wrong with the Disease Enchant. Little bit of healing debuff when that bad boy goes off sometimes, so that is sweet. And then Nirn-honed again was picked because of the balance of increased damage and healing that it gives. You could again go Sharpened here on this build if you want to up the damage of the spec. You will hit harder, but then you're relying more and more on the health regen for survival as opposed to the healing itself. Something I did want to mention for the Greatsword is that you could run poisons that give you the minor recovery buffs if you really want here. They would be good on the build. However, they won't have a super high uptime on them. So it is kind of hit and miss, but it is a good option for the build if you want to give that a shot. And then finally, the jewelry, guys. We have got the Swift with weapon damage, 2 Swift with weapon damage, and then 1 infused piece with the weapon damage. So the reason we only did 2 Swift is because Nightblade is already very fast, very trolly, and very kitey. I felt like 2 Swift would be plenty fine for the Stamblade. And then Bone Pirate with the infused here is super great because this infused is really going to make up for that lack of damage and healing that we go from getting the Swift traits here, giving up that max stam. Infused is super awesome on a medium armor build because you really get a lot of bonus percentage into that weapon damage. So this is really BIS damage, and then two pieces for the movement here. And then on the gear set themselves, guys, you want to run a mix of impenetrable, well-fitted, and invigorating. You can do just 3 impen. I would say 3 impen you definitely want to do. And then the last 4, you can do a mix of well-fitted and invigorating. Totally up to you. Both work really well for this build because we have so much percentage increase into our regen. Invig is particularly nice because you get a lot of health recovery out of it, which is pretty sweet. So there you go. That is an option for you guys as well. I have 2 well-fitted, 2 invig myself, and the 3 impen when I did the footage here. So I actually had this build like fairly maxed out when I played it. It was really good. As for the enchants on the gear, I have 3 pieces of Tri-Stat Hacky Joe on the big pieces of gear there. I also have the belt. The Hacky Joe is, I think it's a necessity to get your HP up to that 19 to 20k hit point mark. But after you're at that 19 to 20k mark, don't feel like you need to get more HP. I think just the 3 Hacky Joes is plenty for this build, and you don't need to do much more than this. If you really want to have more HP and more Magicka for your sustain, etc., you can definitely run the full Tri-Stat Hacky Joes, but you do give up a little bit of damage going that route. Alright, so let's take a look at the skills that we're running on this build. So to begin, we have got Surprise Attack. This is going to be your primary spammable. You guys all knew this was coming. 2H on the front bar. We've got to have Surprise Attack. Fully buffed, we have almost a 10k tooltip on this. This isn't super crazy high. However, like I said, we are running very high amounts of crit damage on this build, so we're going to be relying on those crits for this to really take off in damage. Surprise Attack's also really nice because it debuffs your opponent. That physical resistance debuff is like 8% more damage to them, so that's really awesome. And then on top of it, if you attack them from stealth, you set them off balance and stun them. So there you go. Really nice to hit them from stealth with a stun like this. Lots of burst following that as well. Very cheap spammable too, so a really great ability just for the Stamblade in general. The next skill that we have is Ambush, and I've gone with Ambush because it is my gap closer of choice over Crit Rush. You have the option of doing Crit Rush here if you want from the Greatsword. Really up to you guys. I personally like Ambush more, especially since Crit Rush took that fairly significant damage morph on the distance. Ambush still sports the higher tooltip, and it gives you Empower on your next light attack, so you actually get to hit a really nice combo following your Ambush, which is probably the best part about Ambush, is that you can just line it up really fast with that light attack, surprise attack. It's just such a fast combo to pull off. Bow heavy, Ambush, light attack, surprise attack. If you use Crit Rush instead of Ambush, it is definitely not as smooth as the Ambush combo is. However, Crit Rush can potentially deal more damage, so it's totally up to you guys there. The next skill that we have is Executioner, single target execute. We've gone with Executioner because it deals more damage when our opponent's below 50% HP. We could go with the Shadow one yet again if we wanted, or the Assassination Execute. We could, however, this Execute is only effective below 25% HP, so I felt Executioner was just the better choice because it you'll get more damage out of it more consistently. You know, if someone's 26% HP and you throw out a Killer's Blade, you miss out on your Execute damage, whereas Executioner is still going to have a lot of bonus damage at that point. So that is why we have gone with this bad boy here. The next skill that we have is Momentum. Now, this ability here, we played this entire build without Rally, literally just Momentum, Health Regen, Purge, Cloak, and Shade, block and roll. Like, that was all the defense we had, and it was really good. We could kite lots of players. You guys will see in the gameplay footage, it's actually really, really good. So for Momentum, you actually have the choice here. You could go with Rally to add another burst heal to this build. I think that would probably be the best bet because it's the most trolly one. However, Forward Momentum is also a really good option because you get the Snare immunity, and Forward Momentum is also much cheaper than Rally. So there's that. The cost isn't a huge deal because we have so much sustain, I think. But yeah, it's kind of up to you guys here. I think Rally is the better bet because then you add that extra burst heal to the build. That being said, it technically doesn't really need it, so Forward Momentum could be the way to go here. Totally up to you guys. There you go. Let's take a look at the next skill, Relentless Focus. And this is a great skill. You guys all know why this is here. Minor Berserk. Very nice for that 8% damage increase. Minor Endurance, also very nice for our stamina recovery. Our stamina recovery fully buffed gets up to like 2.7k. When we kill something with the Greatsword, it's over 3k stam recovery. So we have huge amounts of stam sustain on this build. And then finally, we get that bow after 5 light attacks, 18k disease damage. That is our most powerful single target ability on this build, and it hits like a truck, guys. Very, very good skill. And then finally, guys, for the ultimate, we have got Incapacitating Strike, the ultimate of choice for his Stamina Nightblade. Disease damage, very nice. It also increases our damage against them by 20% for 6 seconds. We get the stun, and it defiles them. Oh my gosh, is there a meaner ultimate? Seriously, is there a meaner ultimate? Look at this, I'm missing some passives here. But there you go. Is there seriously a meaner ultimate in the game? This is such a good ult for the Nightblade. Yup, hits really hard, and it's very cheap cost too, so you'll be getting this up a lot. For the most part, this is actually your primary stun. You can stun from Cloak with your other abilities, and we can use an off-balance roll dodge, partial charged heavy to stun. However, this ultimate is up so darn much that it is pretty much your primary stun, and when you use it, you're probably going to get the kill. So there you go. Taking a look at that bow bar, the first ability that we have is Poison Injection. And this is here to help us kill those tricky targets. Anything that's a little bit tougher to kill, Poison Injection is going to be that extra pepper that allows us to take them down, dealing exponentially more damage as their health falls below 50%. A little bit of a double execute there too. So there you go. The next skill that we have is Shadow Image. This is very important for this build. You definitely want to run Shade in open world PvP. Really great skill. You throw the Shade down, and you go wherever you want, and you just teleport back to it whenever you want to. Super awesome for getting out of trouble. Super heavy snares, super heavy pressure. Always make sure you keep your Shade down and teleport back to it when you need to. As soon as you teleport back, refresh that Shade again. Whenever you don't have the Shade up, seriously, keep this thing down. It saves lives. Such a good ability for Stam Nightblade. I cannot stress that enough. On top of it, it's also going to give us Minor Maim, reducing the enemy damage that they deal by 15%, which is pretty sweet. The next skill that we have is Race Against Time. And this one is actually here for that Minor Force buff. We do get Major Expedition from the bow, so that's not a super huge deal. The reduced sprint cost is kind of nice, but that Minor Force is really what we want. That increased critical damage is going to go so far on the Khajiit Nightblade. Super great for a build like this. Now, something I did want to mention about this skill is that you can actually take either morph of this. This is a very fast kitey build. And you can definitely find yourself the respite you need to do the channeled acceleration morph, just so you have the Minor Force buff up longer. That being said, Race Against Time is a really good option too for that cheap sprint if you really just need to do some out of stealth sprinting to get away. I think that one's going to be better because of that, well, cheap sprint. So there you go, guys. Kind of up to you with this one here yet again, but definitely keep one of these morphs for that crit damage buff. The next skill that we have, guys, and you all knew it was coming, Efficient Purge. I've said it so many times, I always run Purge on a Nightblade. Well, not always, but almost always run Purge on a Nightblade, and Stamblade is no exception. Purge is such a good ability. We will remove 2 negative effects from ourselves, and we also reduce the duration of any further negative effects by 50% for 6 seconds. This means that if we use Purge and it removes no dots, only removes, like, let's say a mark and a defile or something, it will still reduce the damage of all damage over time effects on us by 50% from that point on, because it halves their duration. There's no dot in the game that has 12 seconds or more duration, so you will effectively halve the damage of dots that you take here by using this ability. Very, very good for the Stamblade. This is also a super great hard counter to Mark. We have a ton of Magicka recovery, so we can do back-to-back purges to get rid of even that stealth-seeing Mark and break free with a cloak afterwards. So yeah, really, really great ability for this build. Highly recommend you guys use this. Do not feel tempted to trade this out for another skill. Trust me, Purge saves Nightblades. It even gets rid of Slodes, guys. Slodes is breaking Cloak right now. Purge can purge that too, so there you go. One of the things I also like to use Purge for, especially on a Nightblade, is to get rid of curses, because that is an annoying way of getting pulled out of stealth constantly, and Purge will remove that as well. And then finally, guys, we have Shadowy Disguise. This is access to stealth, and we get that beautiful guaranteed crit from stealth. Super awesome for the Nightblade, yet again, because we're so crit damage focused. The guaranteed crit from stealth means that we're just guaranteed to do more damage as we pop combos on people. So really, really, really nice for this build. Yep, gotta have stealth on that Nightblade. With the Swifty, We are very fast in cloak. We can... I don't even know how to put it. We can kite people so hard, you guys will see in the footage. Now, let's take a look at the ultimate. I have gone with Soul Tether here, and Soul Tether is just a personal favorite of mine because when it comes down to it, this build is not good if a lot of stuff's piled up on it and it can't escape. Soul Tether is like the one thing it has to kind of like retaliate to that with a bit of healing. That being said, this build is so fast, you're probably better off just running the Undo ultimate. The Undo ultimate is probably going to be much better than Tether because you'll just get out of there instead of trying to tank it. So there you go. I would say definitely go for Undo if you can, but if you can't, Tether is a great option too. All right, and finally, we're going to take a look at those champion points, guys. Starting off in the tower tree, 16 Warlord, 14 Sprinter. We have to break free, and we have to sprint in PvP. We're in medium armor too, so sprint's super important. So that's why we have that there. 1 in Siphoner, because I had an extra point. In the Lover tree, we've got 37 Arcanist, 56 Mooncalf, and 49 in Health Recovery. Now, this is kind of up to you. I put a little bit more focus on Mooncalf here simply because I felt the Stam Sustain needed it a little bit more than the Health Recovery did. That being said, you can definitely go a little bit more heavy on Health Recovery if you want. But the Stam Sustain is really nice. Ultimately, it's the mix of the two that makes this build so good, including, of course, the Mag Recovery, which we didn't neglect. So, yeah. Definitely just want to put a lot of points in these trees in general. Tenacity, don't put any points in. You will not be using heavy attacks to return resource on this build whatsoever. Yeah, by the time you get a heavy attack off, you've got like 3k plus stam back from your regen anyway. So there you go. You will not put any points in here. For the Shadow tree, we've got 51 in Tumbling and 26 in Shadow Ward. You gotta roll, guys. Very important, especially on the Stam Blade. We're going to be doing a lot of rolling, lots of back-to-back rolls, so we want to have that reduced cost. And then Shadow Ward is also really important because you have to block in PvP, especially a medium armor build. I can't stress this enough. Blocking's important. Blocking the stun is almost always better than taking it and breaking it, so always block the stun, guys. Definitely want to put some points in there. We've got nothing in the Apprentice tree, nothing in the healing here either, because this is not a very heals-focused build. In the Atronach, we have got 81 Master at Arms and 39 Physical Weapon Expert. Huge focus on Master at Arms because almost all of our damage is direct damage. Actually, I'm pretty sure everything except the Poison Injection dot is direct damage. So this will buff pretty much everything. And then Physical Weapon Expert is going to buff up our weapons as well. Tactician, very important for that off balance on roll dodge. Partial Charge Heavy is going to be really nice for that Trolley stun as well. Not to mention, we get the bonus damage from Exploiter on an off-balanced enemy. So that is also very important. And then taking a look at the rest of this ritual tree, we've got 49 Mighty, 41 Piercing, 40 Precise Strikes. Very even spread here. If anything, actually, we could focus a little bit more on Precise Strikes because we are kind of crit focused. That being said, an even split is almost always a very safe bet for a Stam build. You can't go wrong with something like this. And then finally, we get those important passives, Precise or Perfect Strike for that weapon crit. Exploiter, like I had mentioned, that 10% bonus damage against off balance, just stacking in that damage. Nightblade's so brutal. And then finally, we also get Last Stand, which is pretty sweet. We are playing a health recovery build, and we have pretty low HP, so the chances of you falling below 20% HP and being able to come back from it are pretty high, so getting Major Heroism on top of it is just the icing on the cake if you can make it through that situation. In the red tree, we've got 66 Ironclad, 77 Resistant, 15 Spell, and 15 Medium Armor Focus. I really bulked this tree up on the blade this time. Yeah, just felt like I should. Lots of crit resist, lots of direct damage resistance, and just kind of like getting those front heavy points as well on our spell and physical resistance as well. And then in the Lady tree, we've got 27 Hardy, 27 Elemental, and 23 Thick Skin. This is a nice even spread here. A little bit less focus on dots because we are a Stam Blade, so we have Cloak to suppress the dots, and we're running Purge, so we actually have quite a bit of dot counter on this build, so not too many points here. However, we are playing in a super heavy dot meta, so I did want to put some points here just to kind of counter that. And then nothing in the Lord tree. Yet again, we completely neglect our healing. No focus on it whatsoever because that health recovery is really what is going to keep us alive. And something I really wanted to mention, guys, here is the Critical Leech passive and the Resilient passive. When you take critical damage, you heal for 238 health. And when you deal critical damage, you heal for 372 health. Now, these both have, I think, a 5-second cooldown. And this is going to proc Troll King. Now, it's not like a huge amount of healing, but the fact that it procs Troll King makes this important, because even if your buffs are down and you're attacking and your health begins to drop, you still have the potential to proc your Troll King. So this is, I think, just important for survivability. These are great kind of passives to get because they synergize really well with the Troll King helm set. Alright guys, so let's do some PvP commentary. So to start off here, we have a nice lengthy fight here. Yeah. Something I want to say about the Stamblade before we start is that I did all of the footage, like I had mentioned, without Rally Morphed, so we actually don't have a burst heal outside of our potion. We are relying almost entirely 100% on the health regen outside of the little bit of healing that we get from our momentum being unmorphed. So this, I just want to say, like, I want to show you guys in the footage here, this build is very strong with the health regen alone. Rally is nice for that burst heal, but you can even go with the forward momentum morph because you don't actually really need it. You have so much healing power on this build. So there you go, guys. And I had a lot of fun playing this. Stamina Nightblade is very, very strong. The fact that they have stealth makes them, I think, the best Sam class in world PvP. Just being able to go invisible. They also have, like, you know, really great abilities and stuff, but that stealth, man, I don't even know what to say. So yeah. Let's start commentating the fight a little bit more. Just a few things I wanted to say about the build. So as you can see, we have engaged with a few Ebonheart Pack players here. I know I'm a dirty trader today, guys. But we have engaged on the resource here, and we're just going to try to pick off the players that we can. We get a really nice kill off on that guy there. Just do the heavy attack into our bow. Huge amounts of damage. There is another DC player here as well, so I've got a little bit of distraction, so it makes it very easy to kite these guys out. There is people marking me occasionally. However, we are running Purge, so we have that hard counter to mark. And in these fights, you guys will see me use Purge a lot because it is very useful for these fights. Honestly, Purge is such a great skill. I have it on my bar for good reason. It's not just there because I say people should use Purge. It's there because we're going to use it in the fight. So as you can see there, we did a little bit of a kite away after taking a bit of pressure, and our friendly player here ends up actually going down, which is not very good, but at the same time, you know, we are on the Stamblade, we are very kitey, so we're just going to keep trolling these guys, using that shade a lot. I cannot stress how important the shade is, not only to get out of snares, but also just for that reposition. You know, it's almost like Cloak because you can teleport so far away sometimes and really throw people off. There you see I get a really nice partial charge bow heavy into the ultimate. Huge damage into that player, but don't manage to bring him down. And then as you can see there, we actually get hit by the mage's rune and get tossed in the air. Super hilarious. But we're just going to keep kiting these guys out. I throw down the shade expecting to have to use it, but they end up letting me get away in my cloak there. So I just do a quick reposition around the rocks here. Just being patient. Stamblade is all about that trolley gameplay, I find. You just have to, you know, especially world PvP, you just have to run around a lot. Be very patient with your opponents, and you have to essentially lure them out into a position where they're vulnerable. If you're too aggressive on the Stamblade, you almost always find yourself jumping into something that you won't survive. Shade is really nice. It allows you to have quite a bit of aggression. As you can see here, we're going to try to jump on this stack. And Shade's going to be nice because it might help us get out of that. I hope I put the shade down here. Yes, I do. Very good. So we throw the shade down before we hit the stack there. Huge heavy attack, partial charge actually, into the ultimate. We go for the bow as well. She takes quite a bit of healing from a friendly player. I think we would have got her there. Very, very close. Lots of damage. As you can see, for the lower damage stats that this build has, it hits very hard still. Those big crits coming in. We try to put a little bit of damage into this guy here, but he ends up like flick blocking the attack. We go for the ultimate there. Huge damage off the ultimate. He gets a bit of heals. The negate gets dropped, and yet again we are forced out. Just have to be patient. Just more patience on the Stamblade. Lots of that kite gameplay. Someone is throwing those mage's rune down everywhere. Oh my gosh. I'm getting trolled so hard by that mage's rune. Lordy, lordy, lord. We catch this guy on his own in the corner here. Quite a bit of damage into him. Take a mark here. It is the stealth detecting mark, so we pop 2 purges to completely remove that. Kite behind the rock to make sure he can't apply another mark, and then we go right back into our cloak here. And we actually, I think, kite around the player that was looking for us there. I think he actually ran by with the other player. He is a Nightblade, right? So we're going to get marked by other Nightblades, so they're normally in stealth. You usually just have to kind of guess where they are in line of sight, where you think they were, especially if you want to prevent getting remarked right away. Go for the purge once you have them line of sighted. That's kind of my advice with mark. Don't try to purge the mark right away and you know, expect that you're not going to get it reapplied. As you can see there, we get jumped on pretty good by the Nightblade there, but we're going to keep using our cloak. The Swifty coming in so handy here. The movement speed, honestly, really making the kite gameplay possible with cloak here. Even when we're snared, we still have some decent movement speed. We take a pretty nasty snare. There's the mark. We go for one purge, and we port back to where our shade was, and then we go into our cloak here. Now, the one Nightblade that marked me can still see me, but every other player cannot see me when I'm in cloak, and I'm marked like that. We get the second and third purges. We're actually unable to purge the mark in that little kite there, and I managed to get enough line of sight to finally purge the mark. Repositioned by these rocks here. A lot of the red players have backed off. Huge burst into that guy from behind. Oh my gosh, he didn't see it coming. I guess maybe they thought I ran away, but we're just going to reset the shade at the top here and re-engage with these guys here. Here is this Nightblade. This guy here, I think, is the one that's marking me all the time, so he's the one we're going to have to fight. Now, something to note about when you're fighting a Nightblade, like I've played this build a little bit in PvP. Well, honestly, I didn't even play it enough to morph momentum, so I don't know, maybe Nightblade's just OP, but I found when I was fighting the mark, it's good to actually put pressure, like, especially if you've purged the mark, put pressure on the Nightblade who marks you, because if you're attacking them or they're actively attacking you, they usually don't reapply the mark. The mark is reapplied during that intermittent kind of like buff casting phase of the fight, and there you see the Nightblade waited a very long time to reapply the mark there, because we had put a lot of pressure into him, just like I said, and that's going to help you effectively counter mark on the Nightblade too, but as you can see here, the mark is honestly not even that big a deal. We can kite it out super easily. We're kiting these other players quite easily as well. And another friendly blue player's kind of jumped in here from the top, I think, and just throwing a few fireballs into that DK. However, we've got still the 3 EP here, and we're still taking a lot of marks from this other Nightblade. We just keep kiting them out. Very important, guys, to remember that when you're marked, it is only the Nightblade that has marked you that can see you. It is not every player. You're not pulled out of stealth or stealth detected like other stealth detect abilities. Your stealth is not suppressed. Only the one player can see you. And there you see that the other DC player on the hill there threw a lot of damage with that meteor. And I just go in for the kill as well, taking that Templar down there. And then we're going to put a bit of pressure into this guy. The enemy Nightblade has kind of given up on me, I think because maybe we deterred him by purging his mark so much. Honestly, I found a lot of Nightblades gave up chasing me once they found that it was hard to stealth detect me on this build, and I had the speed of kite. So there you go, guys. Highly recommend that you run Purge. Seriously, this last 5 minutes of footage right here should convince you guys that Purge is worthwhile slotting, even on the Stamblade. There you see, we finally get a bit of damage into him. Go for that stun when he's about half HP, and we managed to take him down. This Nightblade here re-engages, but he quickly disengages, and he doesn't end up re-engaging again until just more players show up, and we actually end up just taking this thing as DC anyway. Alright, so let's move on to the next fight. This is just a little bit of a shorter clip here, just to showcase a little bit of the Zerg gank potential. As you guys had seen in that last clip, we are very good at kiting, and when we have just a smaller amount, like 5 to 10 players, it's quite easy to kite them out on this build, in all honesty. Stamina Nightblade OP, but we can still do it against the Zergs. You just have to be a little bit more careful and a little bit more choosy when you go for those kills. Here we catch a player just by himself. Huge combo there, and with the bash on the end for the entire combo bash kill. Pretty sweet, actually, that we actually got the bash on the splat there, so very nice. And we got all crits on it, so it looks beautiful, too. And then we're just going to move on here, making sure that we're going to play at the back end of this Zerg, where we pick up the least amount of attention. This guy just dodged the attack. I don't even think he knew. Like, he just randomly rolled, and then he's just AFK here. I don't even understand. I don't even understand. So we just pick him off right away, and then we're going to move on to the next player here. Huge stun on her. She's going to retaliate, though, and break it, but we just finish her off right away with a surprise attack into the execute. And then we got the Frost Warden chasing us. Oh my gosh. You guys know from my last video how good a Frost Mage is against a Nightblade. So we just quickly kite that player out with our Speedy Cloak, and then we get actually another nice kill off on another player there. And here you guys get to see a little bit of that health regen really in action. We've got multiple stacks of dots. We've got slodes on us. We've got everything, guys. We throw down the shade. Look at those health regen ticks. absolutely insane, and we still managed to pull the clutch shade getaway. Yeah, that health regen. No rally in those fights, guys. No rally in any of these fights. No burst heals whatsoever. We're just playing 4.4k health regen. So this next fight here, guys, we are in a keep, and we're going to be playing around with the bananas in here, because what is better to do than attack the Aldmeri Dominion? So I put a little bit of damage into these guys. It's a little bit laggy in this keep, so that is something that I am keeping in mind during this fight. Something that I do want to note is that when you're playing in like rather high pop server, as you can see there, it takes quite a bit of time to sometimes use your abilities. So a build like this doesn't function as well in the higher pop servers, but everybody lags, so there is that. I mean, they're lagging too, so you could potentially still score the lag kill. I don't know. There you see the Sork comes up the staircase. Absolutely huge gank on that guy. Poor Sork. And here comes Yellow in force. They're going to come up with a few more players now. I go for a in cap on the front player here. Put a bit of damage into him with the surprise attack. There we see we finish him off with that last surprise attack as well. And then we just put a bit of pepper into this Sork here. Some more Yellow players are on the way up. So we're going to have to be careful here not to get piled on too hard by these guys. That being said, though, we do have a shade down. And we get a really kind of like laggy jump into there. Put a bit of damage in, but not really much we can do, kind of sitting in the back in their heals. And holy crap, huge in cap on that player in the back of the group. And the surprise attack, we just take him down. That was a massive combo. I don't think they really expected that. Everybody just kind of ran up the stairs, so we kind of got that nice and clean. Little bit of a kite there. As we enter stealth, of course, we change directions. Direction change when entering stealth is super important, guys. I cannot stress that enough, especially in PvP. You always want to be changing directions when you enter stealth, guys. So there you see, we put a lot of damage into this player. Nice in-cap dodge roll combo. Light attack, surprise attack, dodge roll combo. Take down another player in the middle of his friends. Here you see we hit this guy with a surprise attack from the back. Then the second one stuns him because he's off balance. Yup, huge damage into that guy, just bringing him down. This guy we hit with the in-cap, go for some damage. He does the right thing here. Even though he's a light armor build with a staff, he just holds block. Very good call. He's going to mitigate that burst. He's not going to allow me to burst him down. And sticking around is going to get me killed, so I just have to back out anyway. Ultimately, guys, when you're fighting a Nightblade and they go into stealth, just hold block. It is better for you to block that incoming combo than to just take it and have to break the stun every single time. So here we actually got a really nice kite. Caught a couple players on their own around the edge here, but we're just going to keep kiting around. This guy here is just playing around with his outfits. Put a little bit of pepper into him here, but then we're just going to roll through these guys, and oh, we get the mark here. So the mark comes down. We did drop the shade in the back room there. Teleport back to the shade. Here you see we go for one purge out of the mark. We actually get stunned with our stam down, the only time in this video where we actually get caught with low resource, but the regen's going to save us anyway. The shade ended up saving us there. We go for the second shade there. We're going to teleport back to the shade. Beautiful little bits of shade gameplay there just to counter the mark, just to stall for those purges. We were pretty low on Magicka when the mark came down, and now we can freely enter stealth again. We engage with this Nightblade here. Huge damage into him. There, we try to finish him off. Unfortunately, I don't manage to finish him. Quick little target switch into the Spectral Bow. Huge damage into that player there. We get another really nice kill. Oh my gosh, the kite gameplay on this Nightblade is just so incredible. We do a little bit of a shade set here. We get stunned. We don't manage to break it. Just caught, honestly pushing this build kind of to the limit there. Really great kite gameplay, but yeah, what can I say? That was a lot of fun. Anyhow, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this build video. If you did, feel free to hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and stick around. We will be pumping out more builds for you guys. If you guys want to catch me live on Twitch, you can. Link, of course, to that is in the description. And we are sponsored by What the Fast, a VPN for gamers. If you guys get crap ping, it is free to try, so check that out too. Have a great night, guys, and I hope to see you next time.